In this video, we're going to put together our Rosey card from our new 3-card bundle. Very feminine bundle, but beautiful and versatile. We're thinking, invitations, thank you cards, can be get well, really any occasion for a daughter-in-law, a daughter, girlfriend. I have a feeling you guys are going to find a lot of uses for this. So in front of me here, I have the card base, which I've already folded in half. And you'll notice that on the front of this card, we do have some cutouts, and that's to help us with the positioning of various elements, just to ensure that we are able to put this together consistently should you want to, use these as invitations. So again, I've gone ahead and folded it in half, and I did take a turquoise and inked just the outside very subtly. Okay, and well, let's just hop right in here. There's going to be some flat elements here, and then we're going to be adding some dimensional ones as well. And here we've got our first little piece, and that's going to go on just like this, and we're going to make sure that it's nice and aligned with the very bottom. Okay, so let's get this in place and get started. All 3 of these cards from this bundle are going to go together very fast, and technically it's up to you if you want to add the dimensional pop dots. I don't see any harm in it, and I think it will elevate it and make it look nicer, give it more of a novelty feel. But if you don't have it on hand, obviously you don't have to use it, but it is recommended. Okay, so I'm going to start off by just kind of dropping it right on here, and I used my thumb there just to kind of feel, and I'm also using my fingers here on the side to feel and make sure that it's lined up nicely with the bottom as well as the sides. Okay, very simple. And again, added some ink to this just to jazz it up a little bit. And there we have that. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with the backmost layers and then work our way up. And the next layer here, which is a large layer, is the large part of the hat. And you'll notice that there are some little indicators here in this corner, and then in this corner, and then right about here. And you just want to make sure that you kind of nudge that in there and line it up appropriately and accordingly with those little indicators for positioning purposes. Okay, and this is graphic 45 paper. We've been using quite a bit of graphic 45 lately. They have some beautiful floral patterns that, well, they work for what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay, so just get that right in place. Use those little guides and press that down. Okay, now the only other layers here that go on the very face or the very base of the face are these 2 little tiny little birds that are up in the sky floating around. So I'll get my large one. The large one's going to go right here. There's there's little guides right for the body of the bird. So you want to just kind of tuck that in there like so. And then there's one tiny little guy. If you want, this would be the time to, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to grab my little pick-me-up tool. Many of you have received these from us, probably along with a nice little letter from me for winning a contest or a giveaway. Hopefully you guys have been using your pick-me-ups. It's just very handy to pick up these tiny little pieces. Okay, and again, this little marker here is for our little bird, and he is kind of turning left ever so slightly. And if you don't do it the same exact way, it's not the end of the world. Just know that there are 2 birds that need to be applied there. Okay, now the rest of this is going to be pop dotted, and in some cases we've got 2 layers of pop dots. Okay, so let's grab our lady here, Rosey, we'll call her. Okay, and you'll notice that I did hit this little area around the neck, and I kind of went a little bit past it, but that's going to be covered up, so it doesn't really matter. But I did hit it with a nice little pink just in these areas. Everything else is going to be covered up, so there's no sense in decorating that part, or inking, I should say. Okay. All right, so find these pieces here, and then we need to find these pieces here. Okay, so this one and this one, and you'll notice that, well, this pattern paper is going down first. It's our first layer. Okay, and that's going to fit into these little spots here. Okay, and once we have those on, just need to find the coordinating pieces that go with these sections here. That's part of her outfit, and that's going to go like that, and this is all going down flat. Now on this piece here, these pieces here, you'll notice that we did some inking, or I did some inking, and I also did some embossing just to kind of give it a little bit more interest. Okay, so I just want to grab this, position it in the appropriate spot like so. And this was also touched up with a little bit of ink. Okay. And you'll see how quickly these cards go together. It's nice having a nice quick little project to work on every now and then. Okay. And just pop that right into place there. Make sure that it's nice and flush with the bottom here as well. There we go. And then we'll get these little pieces in place. Okay. These little bumpy parts up at the top of this piece here, you want to use those as alignment for the piece. It should just pop into place. So, curious, when you first saw these cards, what came to mind as far as use? So I'd love to hear your comments. So leave a comment right on our YouTube page and let me know what, well, not even your idea. I mean, I'd love to hear your idea, but if you are already committed to an occasion, I'd love to hear which occasion that is. Okay. All right, so that just leaves her nice lips here. So just throw a little bit of glue on the back of this lip piece, and you will notice that there are 2 little indicators for the two parts of the top of her lips, and that is where that's going to go. Now, you know what I just noticed is that I kind of prematurely stopped the inking, so I'm going to fix that real quick just to have some consistency here. I should have done this beforehand, but that's okay. Now, if you're curious about the inking, we do have, if you go on our website under Help, under Craft Tips, there's an entire blog post dedicated to inking, where we have a series of videos that we've embedded into the site where I show kind of different, I mean, I don't want to call them different strategies, because for the most part, doing the same exact thing. Occasionally, depending on what I'm working on, I may do it a little bit differently, but for the most part, the concept is pretty universal. But, you know, like I said, we do have a series of videos where I show it in action for various projects. Okay, so let's take a look here. She does have a beautiful little pearl necklace, I believe, that needs to be glued down. That is going down flat. Okay, and you can see that there's, she's almost got like a like little Frankenstein things coming off of her neck. And we're going to use those as our guides for placement on the necklace. Okay. And then we've got a nice little circle that goes in the middle of that, like a little pendant. And then we're going to dress that up with a nice rhinestone afterwards as well. You're welcome to do that. Just to really take it over the top. There we go. Okay, so that's it for this layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop dot this layer right onto the card itself here, like so. So I'm going to flip this over, and you know what? Let me find my large foam squares so that I don't have to do as much work with this. We'll use a combination of both, actually, but there's enough surface area here where I want to use some bigger ones just so we can breeze through this a little bit quicker. If all you have is the small ones, that's fine too. Not going to hurt anything. And then I'm going to, well, you know what? I can probably put a large one here. And then I'm a little concerned about it showing through there. So I'm going to use a small one there. And then also the very tips of the hat here. I don't want those getting bent out of shape, so we'll add one there. And I'm trying to make sure that I've got everything put in the right spot. I believe I do. Oh, no, I don't actually, but that's okay. We can fix that. I forgot her hair. Okay, but that's fine. You can always do it after the fact. So the bottom of this is going to be flush with the bottom of the card. And then you can see this little half circle here. And you'll see that there's a little, kind of a little circle poking out there in the hat. All we want to do is just make sure that we get that aligned. That, and obviously there's a flat part of the hat that matches up here as well. So just make sure you get that in the right spot. And there you go, it's beautiful. Speaking of the part that I missed here, there's a little hair piece that we've got poking out. So we do need to get that in place. And it's okay if we're doing it now. No harm. It's never too late. Well, I mean, it could be, but not in this case. All right, so you can see that there's a little bit of hair there popping out. You want to match that up with the same piece here on this section. Okay, and that looks about right. Okay, that looks nice. And really all that's left to do is put together her little hat with her nice little feathers and pop dot that on there along with the flower. Okay, so our hats, we've got this main part of the hat, okay, and then we've got this nice purple band that's going to go right at the very base. Okay, so we need to take our glue, and I'm going to go easy on the glue here. I don't want it spilling out. So nice and thin, very, very thin. Okay, and get that straight part of that very edge aligned, and then this section here, and just make sure it's nice and flush with the outer perimeter of this piece. Okay, there we go. That looks nice. Now we've got this little feather. That's going to, obviously you can see there's a little half circle here. This is going to get glued down like so. And this part of the feather here, you want it right about here so that it's not encroaching onto the purple piece here. And then this part's just going to kind of hang there like that. So we don't really need to put glue on that section. I would probably just focus putting the glue on the circle here. And then that way, once the card's all done, if we want to add a little bit more dimension to the card, we can accomplish that by just kind of flaring this out a little bit and bringing it to life a bit. Okay, so I'd go about there, right about there. Keep that circle nice and lined up. Okay, just like that. And as I mentioned, grab a little dowel, and like this little part of the feather here, you can kind of train that outward, and maybe even train this out a little bit just to fluff it up a bit so it's not so flat. Okay, there we go. All right, so this guy here, or this gal, that's going to get pop dotted onto this structure to add a little bit of additional dimension. So we're going to flip that over. I'm going to grab my large foam squares here, and probably just going to get away with 3 of them. 1 in the center, 2 around the outside. Okay, and these again, these are getting pop dotted to add that dimension. Get that nice and lined up with the previous layer, like so. There we go, beautiful. All right, so that just leaves our little flower, and then of course, what Dreaming Tree card would be complete without an envelope, so we'll get to that here in a second. Now, as far as the flower assembly goes, there's 3 layers, and as usual, we're gonna start off with the largest layer. And what I'd suggest doing is just folding these in, and of course I did hit this with a little bit of pink ink, okay? And then, you know, this is kind of a stiff paper, so I'm not sure if I should I'm just gonna train it. Okay, so all we're doing is, and there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either take it and just take the petal, put it between your finger and the dowel, start near the base, kind of fold it over so that this piece is upright, and then just pass the dowel through, and that will train the petal. Or if you want, you can use the dowel as if you're kind of curling your hair. Just get the tip of that on there and just curl it back like so. And it pretty much accomplishes the same thing. And you know, depending on the dimension, or the depth, not the depth, the width, or the circumference, diameter, that's what I was looking for. Depending on the diameter of your dowel, it will, you know, make the, it'll train this differently. If it's smaller, obviously, you're gonna be able to curl a lot more around your dowel, and it will make the train more pronounced, or the curve more pronounced. I'm using, I think this is a 1/4 inch, yep, 1/4 inch dowel, so it's doing the job, but not, you know, it's not curling it like crazy, which is fine. The idea here is just to give this a little extra dimension. So we'll continue on down the line here with the smallest section, and once we're done, we'll just kind of glue these layers together. And then we've got a little stamen piece that's going to go on the inside, and then we'll call it a day. So start again with the largest layer, throw a nice little dot of glue right into the center, don't need a lot. And then take your next piece here and pop it in there, make sure it is right in the center, and then you want to offset this a little bit so that it's not sitting like so. These 2 petals are not right on top of each other. You want to offset them a little bit so this one's in the middle of these 2. And I just realized that I actually trained this the wrong way. So, but that's okay. You can always go back in and fix it just like that. I want to train them out like that. I'm not sure why I did that. There we go. Okay. And once that glue is really set, you can definitely kind of just arrange these petals a little bit so that they're not competing with each other. You can kind of lift them up a little bit and create some separation there, like that. Okay. And again, this one, I don't know why I did this, but I trained it the other way. I mean, depending on the flower, it's not wrong, or, you know, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, it's not necessarily that I did it wrong. It's just for the sake of this project, we want the petals going the other way. So I'm going to grab a skinnier dowel here so I can illustrate how changing the diameter of the dowel that you're using for training can make these curves more pronounced. Okay, so you see that? There we go. All right, let's throw a little bit of glue right in the center there. Okay, and again, whoops, just offsetting this, so I'm not putting it straight on. I'm kind of rotating it about 20 some degrees, and then popping that right in the center like so. Give that a little press. Okay, and then that just leaves this guy here, the little centerpiece, the stamen. And I'm kind of just twisting it between 3 of my fingers to bring these little petals, I'll call them, up. Give this a little bit of dimension like that, so it's not so flat. You can see how it's sitting up. It's almost looks like a little bottle cap. Okay. All right, a little tiny dot of glue in the center, and we'll pop that right in the center. And press that down. And finish it off with this little green circle. This is the same pattern that we used for the little trees in the background there, just in case you're wondering which one to use. Pop that right in the center, and with whatever tool you have handy, or you could do it with your finger, just get that nice and centered, press that into place. And there is our little flower. Okay, and we're going to, like I said, kind of create a little bit of separation. We can do this after we actually put it in place, since when we push it down, in all likeliness, it'll flatten out again anyway. So a simple little dot of glue right in the center there. And then ideally, we want to try to position this right in the center of this little circular part on the hat. So I would kind of use this as a guide, as my center. And obviously it's hidden right now, so maybe a little difficult to see, but just use your best judgment as far as placement goes. And that looks about right. Give that a second to set, and our card's pretty much done. It's got a very unique feel and look to this. I don't know how to explain it, but I love it. Being male, probably, I would use this for like a Mother's Day or something like that. Definitely wouldn't, give this as a thank you to one of my buddies, but there's going to be a lot of uses for this because I've got a lot of wonderful women in my life. I could see this for Mother's Day especially. Okay, here we go. All right, look at that. Okay. Now, one thing that we've incorporated into this set of cards is, this is letter paper, and I'm sure you've seen cards featuring letter paper inside. Okay, now obviously you just want to fold that yourself, just fold it in half. Okay, and if you are going to use letter paper, like you sometimes see in fancy cards, what you want to do is just kind of line that up on the inside, and then what I would do is I would just put a very thin line of glue right up at the very tip here. Just a very, very thin line, and I'm gonna spread that out with my finger so that it doesn't get all bubbly and weird on me. Just a very, very thin line of glue right there. And just pop it right in there. Just push it up against the score mark. Make sure it's nice and centered. And then close it up. And as you're closing it, maybe give it another little nudge in towards the center. And then just press that down. That's if you're doing that. You don't have to. It is a nice touch. Okay. Give that a second to set. And then finally, as I mentioned, wouldn't be complete without an envelope. A nice complimentary envelope, and just simple. 2 pieces. Here's the main part of the envelope. You want to fold these pieces in, and we do have a beautiful little decoration on the flap to go along with the nice feather that we have on there. So we've got quite a few little details here. So I would do just a few little dots of glue inside here. And then, and let me see this thing. Okay, so yeah, so now what you can also do then, well, I would just do a little line around the perimeter then. Don't get it in too far because it might show through in that little section where we have the cutout, but that should be okay. So what I typically do is I'll take this And I'll just drop it in there and kind of push it up against the score mark, and then make sure it's centered, left and right, and then just pop it in place. Okay, and there we go. And I have glue right there, and that is not what I wanted, but I'll push that out of the way with my finger, and hopefully it doesn't leave a residue. Now, I did notice that right here, that part is not sitting flat. So a simple piece of scrap paper, throw a little bit of glue right on the very edge of that. You can tuck this in between these two layers and just paint a little bit of glue onto the underside of this section, and then just press that down. And then if you need to go back in any other areas where maybe you didn't get enough glue or it's not making good contact, do the same thing. Just throw a little extra glue right on the very tip of this. And since there's no glue on the bottom, you can use the surface of the layer underneath it as, well, a guide, I guess. And just press that down. There we go. Now it looks nice. Okay, and to finish this up, you're going to fold in the two sides, and we're going to bring up the bottom, and we're just going to throw a little bit of glue right along the inside of this flap here. Nice and thin, very simple. And close that up, give that a nice press. And there's our beautiful coordinating envelope. We'll give that a moment to set before we do anything else here. And there we go. Okay. So this one, again, the envelope's not fully dry, but I just want to show you that the card will fit beautifully. Okay, so Rosey is done, and of course, we're going to add some little rhinestones to our design here. And when you're selecting and adding rhinestones, it's helpful to kind of, before you put them on, check the size and see how it looks. Okay, so I'm going to use a nice clear rhinestone here in the center, and my advice would be to definitely glue it down. Sometimes I know that a lot of these rhinestones come with, sticky backs or whatnot, but they are not ever permanent. They just don't really do the trick here. So I would definitely recommend, and use your little use your pick-me-up tool. What I typically do, you can do it one of two ways. You can put the dot of glue down first. So I'll illustrate that once here. I'll do a little dot of glue right where I plan on putting my little rhinestone. And I think in this case here, I'm going to go with, what size should I go with? I don't know. I don't think I want to use the big one there. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, you know what, that's not too bad actually. Maybe I'll just go with the large one. Okay, so I've got my glue already on there. I'm using my little pick-me-up tool. And let me grab, there's another piece to the pick-me-up tool. I like to use the tip of the X-Acto instead because it's a little more accurate. It's like stronger. Not stronger, what am I saying? Yeah, it's more accurate just because that tip is, so pointy. Okay, so there we have that. I'm going to throw a little green rhinestone right on her necklace. And again, just starting off by putting a little dot right where the rhinestone is going to end up ultimately. And if you can do it with your fingers, by all means, do it. If you want to use the pick-me-up tool, or if you have some other tool, like some tweezer bees or something, by all means, use that. I can typically get it done with my fingers, but sometimes Sometimes I do struggle. Okay, and then also if you'd like, what you can do is add a little rhinestone onto the little feather here on the envelope just to kind of tie everything together. And I would pop it pretty much right in this area here, kind of at the base before you get to this, I guess the base of the feather, the part that connects to our bird that lost his feather. Okay, so there we go. And that's really it. It's a beautiful little card. Very quick to put together, very quick to cut out as well, and will certainly be enjoyed by your recipient. So anyway, if you've, if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. That lets me know that you love crafting with me and helps my little counter there go up. We got another 100 subscribers since the last time I was in here, actually. So thank you to everyone that subscribed. And while you're there, make sure you hit that little bell so that you get notifications when we release new videos, whether they be paid or free or educational. And if you make this or any of the cards from our new bundle, we'd love to see them. So head on over to your Facebook, and in your search box at the top, type in Dreaming Tree Group, or you can use this handy little link here to link there directly. And you can join myself and the over 18,000 other dreamers that inspire us on a daily basis. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to crafting with you again.